Okay, so we're going to start, and I'm going to do this this training in English so that it's clear for everybody, because it's pretty basic, so I'm sure that some of you might be beginners. But first of all, let me introduce myself in case you don't know me. My name is Ana, and I am from How to Spanish podcast. And I also have here David, who is my husband, and he's also from How to Spanish podcast. He's going to say hi in a couple seconds.
Hi, I'm just backstage today.
Yeah, so this is one of the trainings that we are planning to do in the future. We will also upload a video like this on YouTube soon. So after the video ends, I'm going to tell you where you can follow us so that you never lose, or I'm sorry, you never miss anything of what we have been doing. So please introduce yourself in the comments if you would like me to say hello, and we are going to start. So, subjuntivo, and this is level 1, okay? So it's pretty basic, but I'm sure that with these tips you will be able to understand subjunctive a little bit better, and you won't have troubles with conjugations. So, you know that subjuntivo is a very, very wide topic in Spanish, and there are many resources online, but the thing is that most of them just give you all the information at once, and as I said, subjuntivo is very, very wide, so we need to tackle it little by little, and once you get the hang of the basics, then you can move on and start using it when you speak. Now, subjuntivo doesn't really exist in English, for example. It exists in other languages such as Portuguese, Italian, and French, the ones that belong to the same family as Spanish. But the fact that it doesn't exist in English makes it really hard for English speakers to understand at first. So subjuntivo is another conjugation. It's just like present, past, or future, but it's a little bit weird because it's not really present or future. It's like a mix of different tenses. And we use subjuntivo specifically for some situations, and we'll get into that at the end of this video. Today we are going to learn conjugations, and then we're going to learn the first usage, the first way that you can use subjuntivo. So we're going to start with conjugations, and for that I need you to think about the present tense. I'm sure you know the present tense is the first thing that you learn when you're learning Spanish, right? So we have here 3 verbs. These 3 verbs are regular in the present tense, all right? So comer, comprar, and hablar. These are pretty easy. And the first thing you want to do when you're trying to conjugate in subjuntivo is to think of the conjugation of the person tú, the second person. So comer in the present tense for tú is comes, right? So comes. For comprar is compras. Compras. And for hablar, hablas. Okay, I'm sure you know that. If you don't, then you really need to tackle this first before you do subjuntivo. But stay here and I will explain you how to do that. So comes, compras, and hablas for tú, all right? It's very important. You take first tú. And then if you want to know how to do that in the subjunctive, all you have to do is to change letter E and change it for an A. So whenever you see a letter E, it becomes a letter A, and vice versa. So if you have a letter A, it's going to be a letter E in turn. So if you have comes, you have a letter E there, that E is going to change for an A. So comas is the subjunctive for tú. Tú comas. Compras is going to change the A for an E, so compres. Hablas, the same thing, so hables. There you go, pretty easy. So that's the first step to getting the conjugations right with tú. So, for example, if I tell you the verb usar, to use in Spanish, how would the subjunctive be for tú? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Yeah, so usas, the subjunctive for tú is uses, tú uses. Very good. So here I have the conjugations in the present tense for comer. Yo como, tú comes, él come, ellas comen, nosotros comemos, vosotros coméis. And we already know how to do the subjunctive for tú. So I'm going to do that. Instead of comes, I'm going to write comas. And we have the first one. So what do we do with the rest of them? Well, if you have two, you already know how to do the rest of them. So I know yo is a little bit different because it doesn't have an A or an E, it just has an O. But there's a trick to do that. So we're going to leave yo at the end. We're going to continue with él, ellas, nosotros, and vosotros. In Mexico, we don't use vosotros, but maybe some of you are interested in knowing how to speak with vosotros, especially if you are planning to go to Spain or something like that. So I'm going to include that, okay? So él come is going to change for él coma. Ellas comen, ellas coman. Nosotros comemos, nosotros comamos. This one is a little bit different. I'll explain later. Comamos. And vosotros coméis is going to be vosotros comáis. So all I did, except for comer, is to change letter E for a letter A. That's it, okay? So what about yo? If you notice, yo and él have a little star next to them. Why? Because yo and él in the subjunctive, the present subjunctive, are the same, exactly the same. So if it's él coma, it's yo coma, the same verb. There you go, it's pretty easy, right? So let's do a short exercise to make sure that you got this right. So hablar, how do you say the subjunctive for hablar for él? I'll give you a couple of seconds. Right, so él hable. And then for comprar with nosotros, okay, so that is compremos. Usar for ustedes, which actually ustedes is in the same category as ellas, so they are conjugated the same way. The answer is usen. And finally, vivir for yo. How is the subjunctive of vivir for yo? I'll give you a couple of seconds. Right, yo viva. That's it. So that's the conjugation of verbs in subjunctive. Now, this is the easiest conjugation because these verbs are regular in the present, okay? So now I'm going to walk you through some of the irregular verbs in the present. It's basically the same, just so that you know that there are different types of verbs and they look a little bit different. Okay. So if you have studied Spanish before, and if you have studied the present tense, you know that there are some irregular verbs. So in this case, I just have 3 irregular verbs for you. Dormir, soñar, and poder. Dormir, to sleep, soñar, to dream, poder, to be able to. So these are irregular in the present. What that means is that usually the first part of the verb is going to change. So for example, dormir, instead of letter O, in the second place, we're going to add a UE. That's how it works in the present tense. So I'm going just to assume you know the present tense of these verbs, and I'm just going to write them here. For to, remember. Okay, so this is the present tense. Tú duermes, tú sueñas, and tú puedes. That is for tú. So the subjunctive is exactly the same. You only need to change E for A and A for E. So instead of duermes, you're going to have duermas. Instead of sueñas, you're going to have sueñes. And instead of puedes, you're going to have puedas. Pretty simple. There you go. So it's basically the same. It's just that the root of the verb changes a little bit because the present tense changes a little bit. And something important to tell is that nosotros, the verbs with nosotros, when they are irregular, when we conjugate with nosotros, they go back to being regular. What that means is that dormir is in the present, tú duermes, right? But with nosotros, it's going to be nosotros dormimos. I'll just write nos for short. Dormimos. So it's not the same. But the rule for subjunctive is still the same. You just need to change this I for an A. So the rule for irregular verbs for nosotros is a little bit more complex, and we're going to have a video explaining this specifically, but now you know how you can do it for tú, okay? And then the rest of the people. So yo duerma, él duerma, ellos duerman. Yo sueñe, tú sueñes, ellos sueñen, and so on. All right, so just to tell you a little bit of what we have been doing, remember, when we want to know the conjugation, we think of the person tú in the present, and then we change A for an E and E for an A, and that's it. So we have some very special verbs that work a little bit different, and I'm just going to tell you what they are. We are not going to conjugate all of them, but I want you to have the list, okay? Those special verbs are hacer, decir, crecer, venir, tener, poner. Okay, and some others like crecer, huir, and salir. But we have these 5 verbs that are very, very common in Spanish, okay? So the rule for these special verbs is not to think about tú. Instead of thinking about tú, you need to think about yo in the present. So not tú, but yo. In the present, hacer is yo hago. So you have here ag. Decir is yo digo. You have dig. Venir, vengo. You have ven, g. Tener, tengo. Teng, and poner, pongo, pong. So now you have the root of those verbs. And all of these verbs end in ER or IR, which for this matter are like E. That means that in subjunctive you're going to have an A. So yo hago is yo haga in subjuntivo. Decir in subjuntivo is going to be yo diga. Yo venga, yo tenga, and yo ponga. Why is the rule different with these verbs? Because if you thought of tú, for example with hacer is tú haces, and the subjunctive is tú hagas, not tú hasas. Alright, that's why here you need to think of yo. But basically these are the verbs that always have a letter G in the conjugation, so you just need to learn them aside and know that these verbs are very special, okay? So that's why you need to think of yo first, and then you get the subjunctive. Okay, and this is the last part of the conjugation, and afterwards we're going to learn how to use it, how to actually use subjunctive. But the last part of the conjugation that I would like to talk to you about is group 3 of verbs, okay? So this group number 3 are verbs that are completely unique to subjuntivo. What I mean is that they are irregular in present, but you don't need to think about that. These verbs are very, very, very different in subjunctive. They don't look like anything else you have ever seen. So you just need to memorize them, add them to your list, practice them, and then you will be set, okay? So the good news is that there are only like 5 of these, and these verbs are haber, ser, ver, ir, and saber. So I'll write them here. Haber, ir, saber, ver, and the other one was haber, ir, saber, ser. Okay, so these are the very special verbs. Haber is haya. For yo, we'll do it for yo. Ir is vaya, saber, sepa, ver, vea, ser, sea. Okay, so if you notice, there isn't really a pattern other than it ends with a letter A, so you just need to learn this, okay? So yo haya, tú hayas, él haya, nosotros hayamos, vosotros hayáis, and so on, okay? So you might want to write those down, add them to your list, and just learn them by heart. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of seconds in case you want to stop or to write it or something. Ya les escribí. Okay. So now, the part you've been all waiting for. How do I use subjunctive? The first thing is to know how to conjugate it, right? But if you don't know how to use it, then you have no use of subjunctive, and it's really important, okay? So what I'm trying to say is that subjunctive is actually important. Some students have asked me, do I really need to learn subjunctive? Like, people will understand me, right, if I just use the present? Yeah, it might take them a little longer to understand what you're trying to say, because subjunctive is everywhere. Trust me, now that you are learning subjunctive, you will start listening and finding it everywhere. So it's fine if you don't learn subjunctive at first. That's totally fine, but you should really try to understand a little and try to use it little by little, and you're going to sound much better when you use subjunctive. But don't worry about it. It's difficult. We know it's difficult. Actually, we don't really learn the grammar of this at school when we are kids. We learn it when we are older. So we know that it's difficult. Even though we use it, we don't know what it is. So if you go to a native speaker who is not a teacher and you ask him, like, why do you say ojalá vengas instead of ojalá vienes? They would be like, I don't know, it just sounds weird. But there's a reason, and you will be learning today why that sentence was wrong. So the first usage of subjuntivo that we are going to talk about, and this is the only one that we're going to be talking about today. In further videos, in videos that I'm going to be uploading later, we will talk about different usages. But for now, we're going to talk about dos voluntades. Is what some of us like to call two wheels. So what are these two wheels? Well, you know, when you have a dog and you want to walk with him, he has a mind of his own and you have yours. So maybe you want to go back to your place, but your dog wants to keep going. So that two, you have your own mind and the dog has its own mind. So in that moment where you have two wheels working together, then you need subjuntivo. Okay, so whenever you want someone to do something or someone needs you to do something, then you need subjuntivo because it's two wheels working together. And we have very specific verbs that we need when we want to use subjuntivo in this way. And those verbs are querer, que, So, querer que, and I'm giving you a hint, most sentences with subjuntivo are going to have que, not all of them, but most will have que, though not every sentence that has que has a subjuntivo. So that's why we need to study this first. So, querer que, desear que, necesitar que, esperar que, preferir que, insistir que, and ojalá que. So, querer que, want to, desear que, desire or wish to, necesitar que, need to, esperar que, wait or expect to, preferir que, prefer to, insistir que, insist on something, ojalá que, like hopefully or I wish. So when you see any of these expressions in Spanish, that's a hint that you need to use subjuntivo, but especially in this context. As I told you, when you have two wills, two different people, what it looks like is first you have one of these phrases with a subject, a person, right? For example, let's talk about myself. So I'm going to use querer que. Yo quiero que. That's the first part. I want something. And that que is telling me that the next part of my sentence is going to talk about someone else, not about myself. So, quiero que mi esposo venga. So, I want my husband to come home. Quiero que mi esposo venga a casa. So, the first part is just regular present, yo quiero que, that's it. And the next part is going to have subjunctive. Mi esposo venga a casa. All right? So I have a couple examples for you. And those examples are, okay? So this is a phrase that you have probably heard or probably wish to say when you have a conversation with someone in Spanish, and that is, espero que tengas un buen día. So we have again, espero que, and then another person, you have a good day. Tú tengas un buen día. Espero que tengas un buen día. I hope you have a nice day. Another example is, mi mamá necesita que yo vaya con ella al doctor. I'll give you a couple of seconds to translate this into your native language, especially if it's English, and I'm going to tell you what it is. Mi mamá necesita que yo vaya con ella al doctor. That means my mom needs me to go with her to the doctor. See, so the structure in English is very different. My mom needs me. So that sounds like mi mamá necesita me or mi mamá necesita yo, but not. First difference with English and Spanish, you need que. Mi mamá necesita que, and then I go with her. So yo, subjuntivo of ir, vaya, with her, con ella. I'll give you a couple more sentences and please try to translate them in your mind and I'll give you the answer. Mi maestra de español me pidió que lea un artículo cada día. Mi maestra de español me pidió que lea un artículo cada día. I'll give you a second to think about it. And it means my Spanish teacher asked me to read an article every day. I have another one. Por favor, no me insistas que coma pastel. Por favor, no me insistas que coma pastel. And it means, please don't insist that I eat cake. Por favor, no me insistas que coma pastel. Okay, now I want to make a short explanation about ojalá because it's very, very common and it's weird because it doesn't really have a direct translation. So, ojalá que. this was on the list that I gave you of expressions that we use with subjunctive, but ojalá que means like I wish, I hope, people wish, not necessarily mean me, but like in general we hope something. So ojalá que needs subjuntivo. So for example, if my friend Juan has an exam coming up and I want him to do very well in the exam, I can maybe say to him, ojalá que tengas suerte. I hope you're lucky. I hope that you get the note that you were expecting. Ojalá que tengas suerte, right? Or for example, if I'm throwing a party and my friend told me that maybe she will not be able to come, I can say, ojalá vengas. I hope you come. Ojalá vengas. Okay, so that's how ojalá works. And now, I will tell you a sentence, try to write it down, it's in English, and your job is to try to change it into Spanish using subjuntivo, using two wheels. So the first one is, I hope you come to the party with me. I wish that we spend time together and I hope you have a lot of fun. I hope you come to the party with me. I wish that we spend some time together and I hope you have a lot of fun. So I'll give you some time to think about it. I actually used 3 sentences with two wheels. The first one was, ojalá vengas a la fiesta conmigo. That needs subjunctive. Second one, deseo que pasemos. Oh, I'm telling you the answers in Spanish. Oh my, sorry. So it doesn't matter. I'll give you the answers now. So, ojalá vengas a la fiesta conmigo. I hope you come to the party with me. Deseo que pasemos tiempo juntos. I wish that we'd spend time together. Espero que te diviertas mucho. I hope you have a lot of fun. So I'll give you one more in English. I'll give you some time to think of the answer, and that's going to be it for today. So, I'm going to the supermarket. That's normal, okay? So, voy al supermercado, that's it. Then, do you need me to buy something? Do you need me to buy something? And the answer for that one is, ¿necesitas que compre algo? And then, do you want me to buy a cake for the party, or do you prefer that I buy cookies? Do you want me to buy a cake for the party, or do you prefer that I buy cookies? And the answer to that is, ¿quieres que compre un pastel para la fiesta o prefieres que compre galletas? Good, so now you have the answers. Try to write them down, try to see why I use subjunctive, and try to make some examples of your own. As you saw, you can mix several of these expressions together and they make sense. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to finish this live video now, but if you have any questions, I'm going to be replying to them on the chat here. I hope this was very useful, and please like our page if you haven't, so that you don't miss on our next videos. And also please follow us on YouTube. This video is going to be uploaded to YouTube in a higher quality if you want to use that for your study. And don't forget that we also make a podcast, a free podcast, if you want to improve your Spanish. So that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Adios!